Welcome to the Album Anniversary Podcast. Today's show is about Bad Operation by Bad Operation. It was released December 18th, 2020, and is celebrating a 5-year anniversary.
Bad Operation from New Orleans!
Taking tippy toes, feeling powerless. Wearing shiny shoes, 'cause I'm powerless. Never ever knew it would come to this. I'm at the end of my wits now. I'm gonna quit. When there's nowhere safe to go.
I am your host, Caleb, or Caleb the Spy is what I go by on social media. And every day on social media, I do my best to post about as many as I can of my album anniversaries. So, on the Album Anniversary Podcast, we take a look at a classic album, an album we love, or an album that's important to us. Today, I'm joined by two true fans of ska. Aaron, in real life, has joined the show again. Aaron, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And then, oh, sorry, you go by Rob, right? Jeepers, Robert the Dude threw me off.
Yeah, my Zoom name, Robert the Dude. Yeah, Robert Hawk, whatever you want to call me. It's all good.
Awesome. Rob, welcome back to the show. Both of you guys have been on. And why I say true ska fans is, all right, this is going to upset some people. Like, people want to talk 5-iron, right? They got some of those, but there's a lot of people who are into 5-iron who maybe are not all that into ska. But you guys are, like, really still into it. Like, Aaron, we saw Bad Operation not too long ago, and you see ska shows regularly, I would say.
Yeah, I try and get out, local ska and reggae stuff here in the Twin Cities. So definitely still flying that checkered flag.
Yeah, and Rob, I know you. I mean, you back, especially when you lived in Sacramento. Like, you were at ska shows all the time, constantly posting pictures of that sort of stuff. So you guys are true ska fans.
Oh, yeah. I was at ska shows like every week. I got to know so many of the bands that are even signed to like Bad Time Records, and then just so many people that are connected out there. Dude, ska is the best. And it does all tie back to 5-Iron Frenzy.
I think it does for a lot of us. I think that's something that Aaron, we were talking about in defense of ska earlier. I think that was something that he realized when he got into it. He was like, there's more of these people who are introduced by these Christian ska bands than I remember, which is kind of crazy.
My very first ska show, before I even knew what ska was Biebs and Her Moneymakers, 5-Iron Frenzy, and Real Big Fish.
There you
That
go.
was really awesome. Really great show.
Where was that?
That was at the Sherman Theater in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and that would have been in 2013. That was the first time I heard ska music. Knowingly heard ska music.
Wow, okay. Aaron, do you remember your first ska show?
Yeah, it was probably 1996. It was in a church basement, and it was a band called Balaam's Talking Mule, one of the Twin Cities local Christian ska bands.
Okay. I think I've heard of them. Maybe from you, but maybe from somebody else. But yeah, holy cow. I actually don't remember mine. I think it all depends on who came through the Twin Cities first. Was it the Supertones or 5-Iron? It was one of those two, and it was about who came through first. The Supertones had like a 6-month head start on them, so I'm guessing it's them, but I honestly can't tell you. Wow. Scary.
I've got a past that I've been trying to escape. If I could go back, I think I'd change how I was made. I stay consistent, I can count on my mistakes. Now there's no easy way
Like I said, we're talking about Bad Operation by Bad Operation. And again, I'm pretty confident this date, December 18th, 2020. It was right at the end of that year that this was released. This is their debut album, and it was released on Community Records, and Bad Time Records is involved. I think Bad Time did all the vinyl and kind of all the physical media, but I think technically they are signed to Community Records.
It's a little bit of both. They kind of worked hand in hand, both Mike Sosinski and Greg at Community Records. They both They both hand in hand. It was kind of a fair release between the two of them. As far as I'm aware, I have not asked either of them about it, but as far as I'm aware, it was just pretty much just like a joint effort where it was just both record labels.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's on the spine of my vinyl, is both of them are on there. So, I mean, yeah, it was kind of a dual thing. So, and Bad Time I'm super familiar with, but do you know any of the other people who were on Community Records?
Some of the other bands that like Greg, what is his last name? Rodrigue
Yeah.
and Daniel Ray, they were in some bands like All People. They were on Community Records. I don't think Fatter Than Albert was on Community Records, but I could be very wrong about that. I'm not 100% on that one. But yeah, they also had some other indie projects that they were in that were not ska related that Community Records also put out, but they were also very New Orleans based for their local bands.
I think they are very specific to the region. I know that when I saw him live, Greg had like a crate of Community Records at the table for Bad Operation too. So there definitely seemed to be a good number of bands, but none I would be able to roll off the top of my head.
The only one I'm aware of that I remember, and I don't think they're on there anymore, was I know A Billion Ernies was briefly on Community Records. I think they have one release, and they're a ska project, although one of their albums is literally Stop Calling Us Ska. But that I think they had at least one release on a Community Records. So that's the only other one I think I'm aware of. Now I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm looking too. Fatter Than Albert's 2008 album, The Last Minute, was released on Community Records, and so was their split with Stuck Lucky and We Are the Union. That was put out through Community Records as well.
Oh, there we go. Oh, and then I have a Community Records sampler that I got like 20 years ago. No, maybe not that far. I don't know. It was a while ago. We Are the Union. It wasn't that long ago. But I got it when I ordered something from Asian Man Records. He just threw it in as like an extra thing. It was like a Community Records sampler, and there was a bunch of bands on it that I don't think are actually on Community Records because We Are the Union was on it, and I don't think they've ever been on. Maybe they have, but so yeah, I have one of their samplers too that I have a random CD of. All right, well that's enough about Community Records. All right, this album was engineered by Brian Petrus, is how I want to say his name. I probably said it wrong. He's their lead guitarist, and it was mastered by Carl Saff. He has a ton of credits, like over 4,000 credits on Discogs. So I think he is just a mastering person. I mean, I think people send his, they may have never met him, but I think he runs out of Chicago, I thought, and out of it, he just runs a studio. But yeah, over 4,000 credits. And then the last one is mixed by James Whitten. That's how I want to say that. He has worked with, I don't know how you say his name, Tokay? Is that
that's right. It's
okay,
Tokay.
I got it right. So the lead singer of Streetlight Manifesto. He also did Joystick for Bad Time Records, and then Flying Raccoon Suit. I think he worked on a couple of their things. So those are kind of the production side of things. No super huge like name that like stands out, obviously, because this is kind of a smaller independent release. But there's some names tied into that production grouping right there.
I love Brian. I think he's a musical genius. Brian is one of my favorite people. If he's attached to a project, I will probably love it. He's in a band called The Lollies, which also features Zach Quinn on vocals. And both of them are also in a punk band called Pears, which is signed to Fat Records. And I love Pears like so much. They are so good. I cannot get enough of Pears. I cannot talk highly enough about Pears. And then Brian, just his musical ear and his guitar playing is just so catchy. Like he just does stuff to that mixing that just, it's beautiful. And he's also a huge fan of the Descendants. He's got a Descendants tattoo, and so do I. So he's a big fan. And he's also the nicest person I've ever talked to. One of the nicest people I've ever talked to. He's such a sweetheart.
I guess I didn't realize he was in so many different things. I've never taken the deep dive into like each of these guys individually. So that's really cool to hear. Getting homework assignments coming on the podcast. So I got some other things to check out, I guess. So
yeah,
cool.
if you love that real fast, but it's super melodic punk rock, Pears is the way to go. Love them so much.
And I think from one of the podcasts I listened to his research, Brian was heading out on tour with Pears as they were kind of finishing up the album, and it was one of the impetus for them to actually get it done. is because he was going to be gone and on tour for a section of time immediately following it. So I think you can thank that tour for them actually putting something out.
Yeah, that's great, because I'm glad they put it out. There's a reason we're celebrating it 5 years later, because, yeah, we'll get into why it's important. But I will say I have no sales data on this. Nothing I can find. It did get 4 pressings on vinyl, so that's pretty solid for a independent release. I don't think they're huge pressings. It's not like, they're not keeping track with Adele and Taylor Swift, but 4 pressings is pretty good. That I think people who have discovered this, who have liked it, have gone back for more, and they've been able to do that. They've been able to do a couple tours. Again, we got to see them on tour, but I have no real sales data. And then I didn't get a ton of reviews out there, but in kind of some of those spaces where I think you guys and I kind of lurk on the internet, the ska spaces that are still open to it, every review I did find was incredibly positive. So there are reviews out there. Like, if you don't trust us and you want to go, Brooklyn Vegan has a review of it, I believe. And there's a number of places that did review it, and overwhelmingly positive were the reviews that I saw.
Well, Brooklyn Vegan didn't just do a review, but they did an interview with them to kind of hype the release, which the interview comes up before the review if you do a search, which was very interesting that they would invest that additional time. They don't do that for just anybody. I found, because that the time that this came out was kind of when I think the impact of the pandemic was creating a lot of podcasts. So there were some ska podcasts that did get interviews at the time that this was released that, don't exist anymore. But a couple of them went pretty deep, like 30, 40-minute conversations with the band that were really, really interesting. And I think what my take on this from a sales perspective is, you got to think about the timing. This was a slow burn of a record because this came out in 2000. The vinyl shortage, I'm sure that's why they did 4 pressings. That was a factor. It took a year and a half to get an album pressed for a while there. So you're a small label. I mean, we all think of Bad Times. I think we think of Bad Times as a bigger label, but they were still pretty small at the time. So they're not going to be able to invest in a huge run. So it came out, and it took a while, but I think it really permeated, and that's why you saw repeated pressings, and the fact that Bad Operation was coming up pretty consistently as some of the bigger current kind of ska podcasts started to pick up. Like they were in On the Upbeat, interviewed them as well as featuring it. In Defense of Ska, they were on there when they did the Wavebreaker split with Gittleman, and I think all of that just helped people find this gem that maybe didn't get the biggest viewing at the time that it came out, and everyone went back and bought it. Yeah.
Well, and December is a weird time to release an album. Like, you just, again, as somebody who tracks albums on a calendar, like it dies off. Like, November turns into all the best of albums. There was 3 of them today, by the way. Like, it's just greatest hits albums. And then it's like there's not hardly anything in December, and then the new year takes forever to pick up. So it is an odd time to release a record in a lot of ways, December 18th. And I wonder if a vinyl schedule dictated that a little. Like, was it done a little earlier and they were like, well, we want to do it on vinyl, and December is the earliest we can get it done, so that's when it's coming out. I mean, it's at least a possibility, because I think they had vinyl right away, if I remember correctly, but I could be, who knows? 2020 was more than 5 years ago. Let's all be honest. Awesome. Any other fun facts that you guys have? That was all I could really find.
Oh, I've got a ton of fun facts. What do you want to know? Yeah, so it's fun to note that, we all know, well, if you didn't know, they all formed in New Orleans back in 2020 during the lockdowns. I think it was actually a year before that, in 2019. Let's see. So the members of the band, Greg Rodriguez, I feel like I'm constantly pronouncing his name wrong. Daniel Ray and Robert Landry, they were all in bands like Fatter Than Albert, Angry Banana, Samurai Deli, Citizen Dread, and all of those groups had broken up by like 2011, and they were all like kind of like ska core of the 2000s, and those were like their high school bands, quote unquote. And then they ended up forming like a Fugazi, like art rock group called All People that had 2 albums on Asian Man Records and 2 albums on Community Records. But at that point, Community Records had kind of strayed away from ska. They weren't like anti-ska, they just weren't putting out ska records. And then in 2018, that's when the idea of Bad Operation came up. It was at Daniel Ray's bachelor party. He told Greg that he wanted to start a ska cover band that played all the 90s ska hits just to make like money at weddings. And they were going to call the band Sellout. And so he already had the idea ready. He was going to play the bass and sing. Daniel Ray would play the organ. Robert Landry would drum for them again, just like how it was in the old days. And then they had been friends with Brian, and so he was going to play guitar for them. And so they wrote and recorded a bunch of ska songs on their iPhone. But they're like, man, something's missing here. And then one of the members of the local New Orleans scene was Dominic Minix. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I think so. And they asked him to sing the vocals. And then that's when it kind of just like all clicked. And then COVID happened. Pandemic, baby. And they didn't end up seeing each other for like a month and a half. But they already had 8 songs, so they were just sending each other demos back and forth to get 2 more songs ready. And then next thing you know, they had a full-length album, and they wrapped up the recording in May and June. They finished the vocals, they finished the mixing, they finished the overdubs. That was in May of 2020. And then they filmed the music video for Perilous kind of together in August. Bagel Rooks in September.
Let's go Rooks.
Then they filmed the music video for Brain in October of 2020. You know, very sporadic, very like just took the whole year. They weren't telling anybody really about the project. And then they dropped the band announcement, the album release date, and their first music video all in the same day so they could get people hyped behind the album.
Wow.
And speaking of the album, I have a 3rd pressing of it on the solid yellow vinyl, and I have the Japanese CD edition.
I have the yellow vinyl as well, so my guess is it's 3rd pressing. I don't know what CD I have. I will say this is an album I bought 3 times. I bought it digitally when it came out because I was trying to get a semi-cheap version, and then I wasn't doing vinyl at the time, so that's the other reason, is I think when it first came out, it was only digital or vinyl, and I wasn't doing vinyl, so I did that. And then when they put it out on CD, I was like, well, I'm getting that. And then I got into vinyl, and I was like, well, I'm getting that. So there you go. I have 3 copies of this.
And it's definitely worth it. All 3 copies. But that's all the information I could find on the background of this album. So shout out In Defense of Ska. Shout out Aaron Carnes for sending me some cool information about this album.
Oh, that was straight from Aaron? Holy cow.
Yeah.
Shout out Aaron if you ever listen to this. You're great.
He's got all that time on his hands because he's not doing his podcast anymore. So maybe
yeah.
He's listening to your podcast.
He's writing a book called Little Black Book of Death. You like how I'm plugging for Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, his Substack is pretty cool. He's documenting all of it. It's a pretty interesting book process.
Nice. Awesome. Aaron here, not Aaron who wrote a book. Do you have anything to add on fun facts?
Oh.
Not the least cool Aaron in conversation. Happily would own that. No, I didn't have anything else to add. It sounds like Rob had done even more research than I had. The only thing to throw in is that Dominic he wasn't a vocalist at the time they asked him to join the band. He was playing guitar in a more like proggy rock type band from what I could understand from the interviews. And so this was kind of his first foray into being the lead singer. Which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I also really like, I know we'll get into like the whole new tone thing probably. I do like how they wear matching outfits when they play. And it's not like traditional, but it was, I fancied it. I'm not
the
gonna
boiler
lie.
suits.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to see them in the matching outfits. So I like a ska band that still occasionally does that stuff. How is it that you first discovered this album?
Well, I first discovered Bad Operation by Bad Operation very shortly after the album actually released. Because in 2020, October of that year, I was working at my very first radio station. Shout out
Mm,
KDVS Davis, California. I was doing a weekly ska show called This Is Your Brain on Ska.
I
And
remember
they would
that.
give us like, yeah, they would give us like weekly assignments, which I thought was really cool. We didn't have to do it, but it was something that I always took as like a challenge. And so one of those challenges was to play music of the genre of our choice, but that it only released in 2020. And that's when I found Bad Time Records and I found bands like Omnigone and Catbite and Kill Lincoln and so many others. And so I started following that label, and everything that they released, I was like, oh, this is great. I love this. And I became a big fan of it instantly. So very shortly after Bad Operation released the album, I listened to it and I fell in love with the record. And I played so many of the songs off this album on the radio going into 2021. I love this record, and that's how I found it.
Nice. Aaron, how about you?
Not nearly as cool of a story, but I was deep into the ska podcast world. That was kind of my lifeline during the pandemic, was just finding anything and everything that would talk about ska. So I probably heard it when it was announced, and I don't have a specific like distinct date that I found it, but I think you can go back in my Spotify and see I was having it on repeat pretty quickly afterwards, and it really I think it fell off the map for me until that Wavebreaker split, because that put it back on the radar. They were back on additional podcasts, and being a Boss Tones fan from back in the day, it was like, of course I'm going to buy anything with Gittleman in it, and it was like, oh, I forgot how good these guys are. And so it kind of went back into rotation and stayed there at that point.
Yeah. Well, I've said it a couple times. 2020 was my like ska revival. Like I'd always been into it and I'd always hung on. Like Five Iron's always been my favorite band. And, when they came back, I may have cried. It's entirely possible. So, I mean, I've always been into it. But I do feel like I kind of fell off the scene in a lot of ways. Like, and, the scene was not there as much, right? It just wasn't as much. And I think it was, you just had to be looking for it. And I just wasn't. And it was kind of my bad. And so 2020 is kind of like, I started doing a deep dive on like a lot of old two-tone stuff. Ghost Town was like, me and Aaron are both from Minnesota. And like, that was like when the George Floyd thing was going on in the middle of the pandemic. Like that was my like daily song, because it just felt like it captured the mood of everything going on. So I listened to Ghost Town like endlessly that year, and it kind of pushed me into all these different things. And my introduction to Bad Time Records is that 2020 Ska Against Racism reissue. When all of a sudden they dropped that, I was like, there's a scene. What is going up? How have I missed these bands? I mean, that was absolutely it. So then it became a consume everything by Bad Time Records. I mean, it was just anything they had touched, anything that was on that, I just started to consume. And so then I kind of was by the time October came around, I remember the announcement of this. I remember being confused because it got announced and it was like this pure excitement. And I was like, is this an existing band? Why is everybody so excited about this? They haven't heard anything from them. And then I listened to it and I was like, oh, this is why people are excited about it. But it was kind of this like, there was this momentum behind it from the get-go. And I think it was coming off the Ska Against Racism. Can't Complain came out that year. I mean, Bad Time released so many great things that year. And, Five Iron had done the Kickstarter. So it was just like, for me, it was like a ska momentum. So this kind of closed out the year of like, wow, this is really great way to close out the year. So that's kind of my introduction to this. And yeah, like I said, I got a digital copy right away. So I had been listening since release date, but yeah, that's my introduction to this.
I've got two things to bounce off that real fast. I imagine you only got that Ska Against Racism compilation because new Five Iron single. We hadn't heard that song before, and it's very different than it is on Until This Shakes Apart. So it's still worth picking up because it's different. I really like that. But when you said you were weeping when Five Iron Frenzy got back together, valid. But I'm just imagining, and the reason I laughed, I'm sorry for this, but I'm just imagining you're watching that video as Reese is eating mayonnaise, and you're just like, yes, eat that mayonnaise, Reese. Oh.
It came up on a show recently that like, so literally I maybe 2 weeks before this show's going to come out, because we're talking about a Five Iron album. So I went through it, but like it was this thing, right? Like, because I I got Five Iron broke up. In between when they broke up and got back together, I got married and had 2 kids. So like my wife had never seen, she had seen The Obsession, but she hadn't seen The Obsession. And she saw it. Like that night she was a little thrown off. She's like, "Oh my gosh, like you're emotional. Like what is going, I mean, it was kind of like it all full back on." So yeah, it was definitely a spark to her system of like, "Oh my gosh, he really does have issues." Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd cry too if I had to eat a whole jar of mayonnaise.
Little man, you live a little life alone. Little man, wanna live forever. Little man decides to be a father. Little man follows anything you know. You want the world to be your way, and everyone fall in place.
What is it that we love about this album?
What I was really drawn to and still enjoy about it is the way it was kind of a refreshing take on modern ska.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still ska punk. I wouldn't say it's like a two-tone, but I think the punk is much more dialed down.
Yeah.
I think one of the quotes I saw when this came out was that Greg had specifically requested no distortion on the guitars because they wanted to pull back on the punk side of the ska punk. And it felt more like, if you had parallel evolution from the two-tone times, and we didn't have like the Buck-09 Real Big Fish version of ska that I grew up with, and that a lot of the bands that were putting out music at the time were kind of in that lineage, Watu, Bite Me Bambi, and a lot of that kind of SoCal type of ska was what I was seeing a lot of. And then, the 1-2 punch of Catbite and then Bad Operation, where you have, really returning to the groove of ska and not the groove of punk.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that stuck out at me, because it was like your options where you get kind of third and a half wave type ska, or, you had like those really traditional kind of, the Slackers, the Agrolites, Pie Tasters, where it was very much, oh, we're going to start with Jamaican ska and then we're going to add in jazz, or we're going to add in stuff, but we're going to stay as far away from the punk as possible. And this was something that was a little bit more in between, and again, really fresh, like Catbite kind of kicked the door open, and, Bad Op ran in right after him with firecrackers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I love just the overall like tone of this album, because like you were saying, it's like two-tone, but it's like it's not. Like it's a little faster than typical two-tone. It's like it's a lot more joyful, and yet it's still like really nihilistic. Like it's based in just being real. Like it's almost depressing. Like it's the overall tone of the album is like, hey, the world's a mess, but we're going to dance because we have community, we have friends, and we are going to make the best of this awful situation. The overall sound of the self-titled record is it's the sound of the ska music that I really, really love. Like this specific style. It's very similar to how like Big D and the Kids Table sounds. It's very similar to how Mustard Plug sounds. Add in a sprinkle of like how the Slackers sound. And then you add that New Orleans energy to it. Like I cannot get enough of this record. Like I can listen to it front to back on repeat all day long and not be sick of this record. That's how much I love this album. It's so good.
Yeah. I think that's it, right? It's this mashup. Like it is this perfect collision of old traditional and a new spin on it. Like they just really nail it. And the comparison to Catbite, Aaron, in my opinion, is a great one, because like my 2 favorite ska bands of the last 5 years are easily the bands that have the least amount of horns. I mean, it's just they're not front and center, but what is front and center on this is the organ and the keys and all of those things that who's doing it? Daniel Ray is doing. like that, it just comes through. And to me, it warms my heart to hear. And I think that is it. It's that combined with the grooves that they hit. There's just musically, this is such a tight, cohesive album for a debut. It's unbelievable.
And it just makes you want to dance. Like
Yeah.
every time you just, even in your car, you're doing the little hand drums on the steering wheel, and you're doing the shoulder thing back and forth just as you're listening to it. Like it just makes you want to move. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, and Rob, you mentioned something that I had in my notes too, is like authentic. You said authentic, and I think there's an interesting balance because musically, like these are very polished. Like these are dudes who know how to play their instruments well. And that there's not really any false starts when it comes to the music on this album, but then you throw in Dominic's vocals, and they're not the most polished. I'm not allowed to listen to it without headphones because my wife has a thing where if they're not perfectly hitting the note every time, it bugs her. And this is raw, like the combination of Dominic's, the way he sings it, and then the lyrics that he has written to those songs, which are kind of that combination of really, really heartfelt, but some really fun wordplay that he puts in there. And then it's coming from a voice that's authentic. It's not perfect, but everything that he's singing, you feel like this is 100% his thoughts. This is his emotions coming through. We're not polishing this. We're not going back and making it a little bit better. It's like, this is what is going on right now, on top of that musical perfection, because there is some crazy stuff that they're doing, and they do everything so well. I mean, the only way it gets better is when you see him do it live, and D-Ray is jumping between playing the keys and then runs over, grabs the trombone, jumps on the keyboard, plays the part, and then puts the trombone down so he can do the next part that's keys. Like that level of talent is just, it's like mind-blowing. And the only reason they weren't the stars of the show that we saw is because Haysmith was there, which you can't get better musicianship than the Japanese ska band. But these guys were like right up there, second place on that show. So that combination, that's what, that authenticity, which again, when you look at a lot of the releases at the same time this came out, they were kind of more bubblegum, polished, that the taking advantage of the fact everyone's doing everything digitally, so you can kind of make your little tweaks, and maybe you do some auto tune, or maybe you do an additional takes, so it's nice and perfect. But this was like, nah, this is the reality of what this song means, and it means more with that full range of emotion, maybe at the sacrifice for a little perfection.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself. You got to remember, these guys have been in bands for like decades before they were even in Bad Operation.
And I love that idea of like a kind of apocalyptic, yet like it's set to this at times very, very fun sounding. Like that's always an interesting dynamic. And I feel like it's a dynamic that if you're going to do, you have to nail. If you don't nail, it falls apart, because like it takes you out of it. And at no point in this album do I ever get pulled out of like, oh, that didn't fit, that didn't work. It just never happens. They nail the tone the entire time. It's pretty amazing. All right, so what are some of your favorite tracks from this, or at least songs that you feel like you got to talk about?
Well, my favorite song on this album, hands down, Brain. Love that song. I love that it has that false start, and then it's got that that bong rip, and then it does the Sublime sample from Smoke Two Joints. It does reefers, and then it actually kicks off, and it's such a high energy, like, all right, everybody watching this song, get in a circle and let's start dancing. And it's just such a groove every time. Like, if I'm showing somebody Bad Operation, I'm like, check out this song.
Yeah. Is that the one that ends? No, the other one ends with the Mike Park one. There's a different song that ends with the Mike Park sample. So, or where it's not really a sample. It's just that clip from him with a mustard plug. But yeah, I think it's also a really great song on like where it's placed on the album, because it kind of comes after like, more mid tempo. I mean, they're not mid tempo, but they're not like crazy energy. And then you hit that song and the energy just ramps right up. So it's not only is it is a great song, but it's a really good placement on the album.
Yeah, you got to put your hit songs on the prime numbers. That's a quote from Reese Roper.
Oh, is it? Oh, jeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that one down as well, because I thought it was probably the punkest of that album. It had the most punk energy to it, and musically, and I'm a big fan on this album of the woes. This isn't the most woey of the songs, but it definitely had some good woes in there, and just really good wordplay with the lyrics of that. I just, as I was reading the lyrics, kind of separate from listening to the song, it was just like, that's pretty cool. I like the way he put that together. So definitely would recommend Brain as well.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, what's the song you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about the song Bad Operation on the album Bad Operation by the band Bad Operation.
That's the best. That's the best bit. I love that so much.
It's great.
And not just because it was so important that, the band name is in there 3 times, but I mean, it is catchy as all get out. And I think that's the song that, from seeing them live, is D-Ray bouncing between 2 instruments and playing them both incredibly well, because that's got some really cool trombone on it. I'm not sick of horns in ska, but it was definitely one where, you heard the way to do horns in ska and you heard the way to do keys in ska. And that combo was super fun. And, it's just more kudos to them as musicians, especially, D-Ray being, because I think when we saw him live, not only was he playing 2 instruments, he was also like jumping forward and trying to get the crowd going too. And like that energy comes through on that track, even though it's a studio track. It's, you just can't not move to Bad Operation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also really love that self-titled song. It's interesting because the sound of it is very melancholy, and yet it's so hopeful at the same time. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. I think the drums at the beginning too, because it kind of builds. It starts out a little quieter and then it builds, and there's a couple of really kind of interesting fills in it too. Like it doesn't just do the like, hey, let's do our 8 bars to get into this. Like they do kind of play with it a little, and again, it just highlights just how tight of a group they are. But yeah, I think it's a great title track, and this is one of the ones that I think really, really highlights that old new melded together. This is one of the best examples of it, where it feels like something the Specials could have done, but it feels distinctly new and distinctly modern while still having that strong connection.
Another song that is also definitely worthy of being mentioned is Kind of Together. That song is really cool. Not only does it have a really cool music video, but it's such an interesting song because I feel like it perfectly captures the mood during lockdowns. Even though like it wasn't even released during that time, even though my little nostalgia brain of the 2020 lockdowns, that song is not anywhere on that soundtrack. It encapsulates that feeling. I was watching Tiger King like everyone else was. I was on TikTok. I was washing my hands constantly and wearing masks, but that song Kind of Together just sounds like 2020, and it's just that mood. Half the lyrics are just almost nonsensical sentences. He's just saying things here and there, and then he's like introducing the band members and then saying their nicknames, and it's so cool. But yeah, it's just such a great song. I love Kinda Together, and just that title too. Just we're kinda together because you had to hang out with your friends on the internet from that point on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a great track. I mean, I've been getting more and more into dub reggae over the last year, and there definitely was a good amount of dub flavor to that one, with kind of that echoey. I mean, the moodiness you're talking about, Rob. I mean, that is dub. It's just kind of like there is something, and they didn't do like a true dub, but the way that they had the sonics of that song, the spookiness of the organ, it was kind of almost, you could see Vic Ruggiero from the Slackers sitting in the wings, just kind of going, "Yep, these guys got it," and to what you were saying earlier, Caleb, I mean, there's definitely a little bit of Ghost Town feel to that song as well, and that's kind of that echoey, dubby kind of reverb when you get that spooky organ and you have the space for it to kind of echo, and it's not a lot of stuff coming at you, and you can kind of appreciate the aftertaste of the organ.
It almost feels like an instrumental, like because of the nonsensical lyrics, and then he introduces the band. So like I've always kind of seen it as more of that than anything else. And so it's always made me, again, you talk about these callbacks, it's always had made me think of One Step Beyond, where like it's technically an instrumental, but then they yell out One Step Beyond every now and then, and like that's kind of how it feels, is like, again, this callback to classic two-tone stuff where they do it was very common to have an instrumental song, where you kind of just threw back to the Jamaican dub or other things like that. And so, yeah, I think it's one of those songs that I like it, and I especially like it to kick off side 2. It's a really, really great kickoff to side 2, where there's a little more variety on side 2, and it just kind of is that, like, or side B, whatever. I said side 2. It's probably side B is the better, cooler way to say it. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's a really good, like, kind of lead into some of those final tracks on the album too.
I think you say side 2 if it's an LP. You say side B if it's a single.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not hip. We've established that over 120 or so episodes.
Well, I can transition real well into another song,
Perfect.
but I don't want to steal it from Aaron if he's got another song.
Oh, please take it if you got a segue for us.
Well, you guys keep talking about how much the Specials and Ghost Town has like such a great presence on this album. We haven't even brought up the fact that they sample Ghost Town at the beginning of Siren's Call.
Yeah.
Love that sample. I love that it's like slowed down, like a reverb, and then it just does the into the song. Oh my gosh, dude. Not only is Ghost Town by the Specials just one of the greatest songs ever recorded, but just using that, just throwing their influence like in our faces with that is just, it really does. The whole album has that influence of that whole two-tone era, like you guys were saying with Madness, the Specials, and even with the modern two-tone sound with the Slackers. Like it's just, it's all over this album. It's so good.
What I like about Siren's Call is I do like it's kind of a bigger swing too. Like that's the one thing, is like it's the one where the vocals feel the most exposed because they're pushed up front by the fact that everything else is quieted down. So I like it. I like that they're taking that swing and like kind of like, hey, let's not, this is going to sound different, because it sounds really distinct from a lot of the other album, and it picks up eventually. You get about a minute in and it does pick up, but like it is a different feel because of that real slow tempo and then just the quietness of it at times. So I like that they're kind of taking a big swing on it.
So speaking of vocal swings, I think immediately following that on the track list too is Baby in Arms, right? And I would say that's the one that Dominic really shows what he can do, because I feel like that's the one where he has the strongest performance, and you can, throughout the whole album, you can get to, if he's not getting 100% to where he's trying to get to, where he's going, and you can kind of feel it. And your brain almost fills in the difference if it's like just a little bit off from a being on key perspective. But because there's so much raw emotion behind it, like you're there, and your brain just kind of brings you the rest of the way. But I really felt like this was the track where he really showed what he could do. And it again kind of more in that dubby kind of space where you got that nice moody echoiness, and like I said, that's been my jam recently. So re-listening to this with a more critical eye, I was like, oh, that could be why I really dug that track, is it's a little bit more spacey.
I love that song just as much for pretty much all the exact same reasons. Like I really don't have a whole lot more to add to that song, because you took all the words out of my mouth on that one.
Well, then I'll transition us to the final song, even though it's funny, we haven't talked about the singles. I do think it's really cool that they go from Siren's Call, and then Baby in Arms. Like there is kind of this, they slow it down, they play with a little different things. And then I think Fish Out of Water is just a great closing track. And yes, it's a lot of what we've seen. It's not like it's this whole new thing that they throw at us. But again, when you talk about album sequencing, and Rob, you mentioned earlier, like the idea that this is an album that's really easy to just start all over. I think that's part of it, is that it ends so strong with this great, catchy, really, really catchy song. It's really easy, and it's only 25 minutes. So, it's really easy just to, let's put it back on one more time. Because I think I did a lot of that when this first came out. But I think that's part of it, is it's just sequenced so well. You have these kind of a little bit more mid-tempo, a little slower down, a little more spacey, all those things. And then it kicks it in with, it's not as punk as Brain, but it's super catchy and it's pushing it just a little bit. And so I think it's a great way to close out the album and makes it really easy for you to want to be like, well, let's go back to Perilous and throw it back on.
Yeah, and Fish Out of Water, even though it's just over 2 minutes long, it feels fast. It's not even the shortest song on the album, but it flies by. Like you start the song and then you're like, hold on, wait, it's done? I got to listen to it again. And then you just put it back on again and then you start the album over. It's so quick. It's great. It is such a strong closing album. And, big fan of big, strong finale songs. Like, it's like, oh, this was the experience, like the end. So good.
You got to call out Peachy. I mean, it
Oh yeah,
a great song. I think there's a reason that was one of the ones that got a lot of visibility. But my thoughts are lyrically, this is one of the great songs on this, where I think you really get a good kind of story throughout. And this would be for me the one that puts me back into COVID brain and that headspace during the pandemic. And I in my notes, I just, quoting the song, "Eat the rich, feed the kids. Are you Jedi or are you Sith?" And, there's that meme going around. It's like, well, what radicalized you? Well, it wasn't this song, but this probably locked it in for me, because just that opener, it's just so clear. It's like, oh, yeah, I do want to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
Let's go grab a knife and a fork and find some rich people. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's so catchy musically, and then there's just that extra layer of really good wordplay. Again, I'll go back to that idea. I think the lyrics, there's some where it's just kind of fun, but even the fun nonsense stuff, like there's some thought that's gone into how those words kind of play out. And the chorus, it's a pre-chorus. I don't want to leave home, but I can't be alone. I mean, that was just like, oh yeah, I remember that.
I love the lyrics in this song right after that too, where it's like, eat the rich, feed the kids. Are you Jedi? Are you Sith? And then he goes, these things don't matter to me. I'd rather be asleep. Don't want to leave home, but I can't be alone. And I love that so much, because there are so many important issues in this world today, and people are always asking, what's your opinion? And then based on what your opinion is, they're thinking of an opinion about yourself and how they're going to judge you or how they're going to think about you from that point on. And it's like, some of these things in this world, it's just better to just coast. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing with whatever political or economic viewpoint you may or may not have. It's just, sometimes it's just better to stand back. And yet on the flip side, there's also such an active mission statement to this record too. So it's just kind of like this awesome juxtaposition throughout. Even within this song, it's so good.
Yeah. It's She's a Peach, not Jeezy Pete's. Bad misunderstanding there. I looked it up. I was like, I swear that's what he says. No.
And this song is so much fun too. Like when you hear this song live, you're like, oh yeah. And then same thing with Bagel Rooks. That's such a fun song live. Like the whole room just comes together and just starts dancing together when that song comes on.
Yeah. Arguably the most danceable song on the record, although we're in the 8 to 9, 10 range for danceability, but yeah.
Yeah, and the Bagel Rooks, I mean, it's so organ heavy, but it never sounds like circus music. Like it is that. I think that's part of the catchiness, is just that staccato, the organ carries the song. And the woes, again, big fan of the woes. really this one was the highlight of the woes, on top of like some of the most fun organ that you're going to get outside of the Slackers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just seeing them live, hearing this song live is just such a different experience. Like when you hear it on the record, you're like, man, this is fun. I can dance in my room, or when you're in the car or wherever. But hearing it live with a group of people, and even if those people don't know this song, everybody just seems to just get it during this track. And it's just so cool to hear. And it's just so cool to experience that with other human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's another one that feels over too quick because it's only 2 minutes. I mean, so many of these songs are only about 2 minutes. But like,
like
it's
the
like
longest song is only like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty average length, but only one song is that long.
Yeah, there's only 2 of them over 3 minutes. All the rest of them are, there's even one. Is there one that's under? Yeah, there's a one. Brain is under 2 minutes, and then the rest of them are right in that 2 to 3 minute range. So yeah. I mean, we might as well talk about Perilous as the opening track. Great opening track. That organ is so upfront. It's so great. It's more of it's a great opening track to kind of say, here's what you're in for. Strap in, because here we go.
I love that opening line that Dominic does. Hi, we're Bad Operation from New Orleans. That's a reference to the Impossibles. If you didn't know that, the Impossibles have a song 8 Ball. And at the beginning of that album, right before 8 Ball, they go, hi, we're the Impossibles from Austin, Texas. And really good reference, really good, just showcasing like, hey, we're inspired by these guys. And if you get it, you get it. And if not, that's okay, because it's their own thing. And now that's how they also open up a lot of their shows is, hi, we're Bad Operation from New Orleans. Sometimes they also open it up with screaming, this is New Tone, which is also just as fantastic of an opening chant.
All right. The only one we haven't talked about is Little Man. My only note was, is this the Supertones Little Man? I don't know. But yeah, it nails the groove. It's a super groovy song, which I really, really like.
It is. Something else I wanted to mention were the couple of samples that we forgot to mention on the songs that we already talked about. So at the beginning of Kind of Together, the Jackie Me Too reference at the beginning, so good. I am totally together. Oh, that's the Jackie Me Too song, Totally Together. Very, very great song if you don't know that one. And then, yeah, at the end of Kind of Together, they got Billy Spunk from the Blue Meanies doing that voicemail with the whole band as they're calling up Mike Park. I love that. That's so funny. The band has said that they're just really inspired by ska core and the Blue Meanies. Their song Dummy Room off of Mail Order is Fun is one of their biggest and favorite songs. So they're like, oh, we got to get Billy Spunk on this. So that was really cool that they were able to do that. And then that voicemail segment that's in the middle of Brain, where it sounds like it's a voicemail with that like distortion on the vocals, that's actually just Greg just talking. And Brian was like, here, just talking to my phone. And he just like was recording something in his phone. And then they just used that. It's not a sample or anything, but it sounds like a voicemail, but it's not. He just did that for the song. Those are all the samples that I got off of the album. There's more on the Wave Breaker that I could bring up, but we're not talking about that today.
We'll have to find time. We'll have to come back for that one whenever that one's celebrated.
Yeah, you want to talk a little bit of Fatter Than Albert? Some Fatter Than Albert references on there?
Yeah, you should have us back for the Wave Breaker anniversary, because that one is awesome.
Yeah, it's super catchy as well.
It almost goes hand in hand with the self-titled album. Like Aaron was saying earlier, he really got into the self-titled album after Wave Breaker, especially because of Joe Gittleman. But this album, it really does go hand in hand, because when I'm listening to the self-titled album over and over again, to switch it up, I'll put on those 4 songs that are on Wave Breaker 4, and then I'll listen through those, and then their latest single, and then I'll go back and I'll re-listen through the whole discography again. Because it's really quick. It's really quick, and it really does just go hand in hand with everything else they've made. And it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brain will actually revolt, and I'm like, the disc will be over, and I'm like, wait, but what about that other one? And I'm like, oh, because that's on Wave Breaker. But they flow really well. The only difference is I think the Wave Breaker ones are a little more polished. You can hear Dominic's gotten a little bit better vocal control, and it just makes everything that much better. You don't lose any of that authenticity. But yeah, if you like this album, you should get the Wave Breaker. If you like the Wave Breaker, then you need to get this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a new single recently too, so listen to that one as well.
Allies.
It's only been 5 years, so this isn't like a classic album that's like 40 years old or anything like that. But, obviously I think this album has struck a chord with all of us. So what is it that kind of makes this important or makes it hold up, and that you would kind of encourage people like, hey, this is why you go back and check this album out?
Well, I think you need to check this out because, whether or not Bad Operation continues to put out full-length EPs, and I really hope they do. I'm not trying to say I would not go pre-order it right now if they made an announcement. But, this is what the beginning of something new sounds like. I'm a Zennial, right? I was born in 81. So for me, ska, you got to see kind of start to finish what third wave looked like. Basement shows with really poorly developed plans for how to play ska music, but also these bands that were road warriors and perfected their sound. And you got to see super polished and super, not super successful, but super successful for a ska band.
Right.
So you got to see it all. But for two-tone, like, we only have what's in the historical record. And most of what that is kind of that second half, the more practiced, more polished, well put together. Even if the Selecter had like 3 weeks together before they recorded their album, it doesn't sound like that. You never got to see, whatever the first incarnation of the Specials was, playing their second show in Coventry, and not having it all together. Bad Operation is kind of giving you that for what this newest wave of ska looks like. Like, this is what the beginning of something is. And maybe it'll get more polished. Maybe it'll get more perfected, a better version of itself. But this is like getting in on the ground floor. And this is something that you're only going to get the chance at a few times. And I think they're doing the best version of this. I mean, even Catbite, I feel like it came out so solid and so crystallized that you're always seeing kind of the second or third iteration. But this is, coming from that punk rock side of the world, it's like you want to see them before they're really good, because it only makes when they're really good that much better. You don't want to see them when they're really good, and then a couple decades later when they're not so good. Talking about you, Suicide Machines.
Oh,
Whoa!
shots fired.
Whoa! Hey!
Rob, how about for you?
Well, I really like this album. I think it's super important because it's got a timeless sound. It's got a very timeless sound. For being new ska music, new tone, it sounds like the old stuff, and it sounds timeless. Like, you could have told me this album came out in the UK in the 80s and I would have believed you. Or you could tell me that it was like a 90s ska album, I would have believed you. You could have told me this album came out in Jamaica or California or New Orleans, and I would believe you. I mean, that was if I wasn't already familiar with the band. But it's so timeless. It spans across all the time. It's so good. It makes me want to move and groove. And it makes me genuinely excited about music too. Like, whenever I hear any of these songs come up in a playlist, or if they're up on shuffle, or if I'm at a music venue and they come on over the house speakers, I get so excited. I have to tell everybody this is Bad Operation. You got to check these guys out. If you don't know this, you got to listen to Bad Operation. They're so good. And so if you want to know why ska is important, this is a very important band. It's kind of bouncing off of what Aaron has already stated. You can start with Bad Operation and you can rabbit trail to so many other amazing artists and groups and labels just from Bad Operation. You can get from Bad Operation to Omnigon, or pretty much anything like Bad Time Records, or anything Community Records, or get into the Blue Meanies, or get into Asian Man Records, or get all the way to the first wave stuff, or get to the UK sound, plus all the connections that the individual band members have with Fat Records or ska festivals. There's so much you can just discover just from being a fan of Bad Operation, and seeing them in quote unquote their infancy 5 years later. It really is man, they were born great. They're continuing to be great. And the fact that we're witnessing this firsthand is very much like how it was with Madness, with the Specials during that dance craze era. And I think that the people that are very involved in this scene recognize that, and they've recognized it early, and we are capturing those moments now, which is why they made that documentary, This Is New Tone, and the take on two-tone and two-tone records and stuff like that. The new tone, the current wave, the quote-unquote fourth wave of ska that's happening, like, they're getting this documented, and they're making sure people are aware of it. So when people are like, oh man, remember ska music? It's like, dude, it never left. You just stopped paying attention. Check this out. Listen to Bad Operation. So that's why I think this is so important. It's so good.
Yeah. And I should have gone first and let you guys finish because your answers are way better than mine. But for me, this was like, it kind of solidified the scene. Like it kind of like we had this, for me, it was like this revival of sound. And then it was kind of like this hit and it was like, holy cow, there's some really good records coming up. And then, I think it's less than 6 months later, we get Nice One by, Catbite, which I think those two records are going to feel so like those are so important for me because they're these instant favorite records that are part of the new scene. So like instead of calling it a wave, for me, it's like a new scene. Like the ska scene is here and it's active. There's all those podcasts that kind of sprung up in 2020. And there's the book In Defense of Ska. Like there's kind of all these ska things happening around, from 2020 on. And for me, this is one of those benchmarks, like where you get that kind of solidifies the, like, this scene is here. And yep, it may never get as big as it was in the 90s. You may not have some of that where it's, what the equivalent of whatever MTV is today. But, you may not have some of that. But you've got a strength in this scene that it's going to survive. And there's going to be ska stuff coming out for a while. And you get to kind of embrace it and kind of embrace like, hey, I still have a scene that I can go to. And I think that's what really has made it important for me. And there's a couple other records that kind of fall into that, but like this is, as the scene kind of solidifies, this is one of those, I think, landmarks of it as it kind of revitalizes itself. And I know Mike from Bad Time has been doing his best to keep the scene alive for about 10 years, but it feels like there was about 10 years where he was kind of on his own. And then it all kind of came together in 2020. And all of a sudden it feels like there's some real legs to it, which is pretty amazing.
That's how a lot of the bands are on Bad Time Records. We Are the Union has been around since 2008 or something like that. And like nobody was listening to them. I mean, I can't say nobody. They obviously had people going to their shows. I wasn't even aware of them back then. Mm-hmm. I didn't get into We Are the Union until maybe 2019, right before Morbid Obsessions came out. Like right before that album dropped is when I got into them. But they've been around for a long time. Or Kill Lincoln, same deal. They've been around for a long time. And it's like they've just been chugging along in this world that did kind of forget about ska. And it was a big struggle. And all their hard work has 100% paid off. And it is continuing to pay off. And I hope that it continues to pay off for them in the future. Like it's cool to see Catbite just playing these little venues to finally being able to tour in California to now playing like opening for arena bands or opening for large venues like that Less Than Jake show with Suicide Machines and Fishbone. That's awesome. Or seeing them open for the Gaslight Anthem. So crazy. It's so cool to see that this is actually paid off for these bands.
Yeah. I saw that show in your town. That's where I saw that Gaslight Anthem show with Catbite. And I'm a big Gaslight Anthem guy. Catbite stole that show. Wasn't even close. Like totally stole the show. And like one of the guys I was in line with, he was like, okay, that was pretty amazing. They like went and like, he was like, I'm kind of blown away. And I was like, yeah, they're fantastic. I don't want to turn this into a Catbite show, but I will if I have to, people.
Well, going back to talking about live music, especially with Bad Operation, I've only seen Bad Operation one time. It was during the Bad Time Records 5-year anniversary show at 924 Gilman. And Dominic wasn't there. Everyone else was, though. They had Brittany from Catbite filling in on vocals because of his absence. That was a one-of-a-kind show, and that was the only time I saw Bad Operation. But holy cow, that was an absolutely phenomenal show, and everybody was just ready for Bad Operation, because a lot of those bands had already toured in California or were
Yeah.
from California. And so we had seen them before and we loved them. But when Bad Operation finally played there for the first time at Gilman, man, that was cool. Seeing all, 200 people, 250 people that can pack that venue. Just everybody was in this huge circle and everybody's dancing, but nobody can move at the same time. Oh, I will never forget that show. That is one of the greatest concerts I've ever been to.
Yeah, I know, Aaron, when we saw them, like, I know it was kind of like, this was the anticipation. Like, we had Hey Smith was there too, and that was kind of another one that was like, oh my gosh, how many times are we going to get to see them? But like, I know going into that show, I think both you and I had talked like, yeah, I'm really excited. I can't believe I'm kind of getting to see this band up here in Minnesota in the freezing cold.
Yeah, and they drove direct from New Orleans to St. Paul. Because I was talking to Greg after the show, and he's like, "Yeah, we literally got in the van, drove here, came out and played, and you would not have thought that they got done with an 18-hour car ride or whatever."
Yeah,
the level of energy that they brought. Again, it was like to hold your own against Hey Smith.
Yeah.
Which is an electrifying band, and they definitely brought it. And I mean, it was Kill Lincoln, Hey Smith, Suicide Machines, and Bad Op. And Bad Operation opened it, and there was maybe 40 of us at the venue, and I felt so bad. I'm like, these guys are here. Why is this place not packed out? Because this is going to be epic, and you all are missing it. But
yeah.
We did.
It was amazing.
That's something cool about those Bad Time Record shows is you got to show up for every band because everybody's going to be awesome every time.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I love Hey Smith. I found Hey Smith the same year that I found Bad Operation back in 2020 during that whole radio station that I worked at. That was really cool. One of our assignments was to play only bands and artists not from the United States. So that's how I found Mason's Party and Hey Smith and a few other bands. Can't recall off the top of my head, but yeah, good stuff.
I think it also highlights the coolness of the current scene where like you have Bad Operation and Catbite that have this more traditional. You've got the flip side of it where like Kill Lincoln kind of pushes a little bit into the hardcore. Omnigon definitely pushes into that. And then you got Hey Smith, which is this whole other thing. I mean, it's kind of at times really, really traditional third wave. At times it's a little metal. It's a little kind of all over the place. But like that show, the idea that Bad Operation opened and then we got later in the night, we got to see Hey Smith and it was like, yeah, that's quite the variety in one little show.
I love it. So good.
Yeah.
Are you Jedi? Are you Sith? These things don't matter to me. I would rather be asleep. I don't want to leave home, but I can't be alone.
All right, that is it. That is Bad Operation by Bad Operation with a song on it called Bad Operation. Okay, I got that joke in one more time. It was released December 18th, 2020, celebrating a 5-year anniversary. I know both of you guys are online because, well, that's where I met you, Rob, but Aaron, we interact in real life. Aaron, where can people find you online?
Well, if you want to be bored, you can find me on Instagram at bootboymn is my username. And otherwise, you should probably go find Rob because he seems pretty interesting.
Yeah, you can come hang out with it at church with me and Aaron. That's how we know each other. Is I found a ska friend at church in my 40s. What are the chances? Anyway, Rob, where can people find you online?
People can find me on Instagram. It's at Robert Music Collection. That's my Instagram. I think it's the same thing on Threads. I'm pretty weird on there. I like to talk about video games and ska music.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only social media I'm really active on anymore.
Well, I'm still on all of them, and it sucks. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Well, guys, I can't say thanks enough. This is not like this classic album or this, a lot of the listens I get are kind of based around like, Jars of Clay and stuff like that. Those episodes do really, really well because people want to talk about them. And that's great.
I want to talk about them. I want to talk about Jars of Clay.
They're
You want to hear
fine.
about? You want to hear about how I found them on WoW 2004?
Is that the blue one?
2004?
That's the purple one.
Okay.
That one had Toby Max Gone on it. It had Jars of Clay. That's how I found Project 86. Like, let's talk about this, man.
All I'm saying is that this is my scene. If I like when I make my favorite albums of the year, it's all the ska punk stuff. And so like to get to talk about it, to have two guys who are this excited about it as I am, I really appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. I love having my ska people. I love having my punk people who, I'm glad to talk about all the other things, but to get to talk about this. So thanks so much for hanging out. It's a Thursday night. What is it? Jeepers, it's been a long week. I say that every show. I'm like, what night of the week is it? I don't even know. But yeah, thanks so much, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. This was a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. This is super cool. Hit me up for more episodes. I'd love to talk.
I will. I'll earmark you guys for my little ska corner.
Something tells me good is coming. Feeling way down deep. Tell me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Album Anniversary Podcast. I want to say thanks again to my guests, Aaron. Good to see you. I see him fairly regularly in real life. And Rob. Rob, so great to have you on the show again. Just the energy brings. It's great to talk to those guys about ska music and a music that I'm super passionate about, and I don't often get to cover on the show, so I get to cover it enough. But super great to have those guys on. Thanks so much for listening. We do hope you go check this album out. And just kind of some of the cool things about this album that obviously inspire us. Let us know what you thought. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? What are your favorites from this album? I'm still on all the social media. I think I made a joke about it in the actual podcast. But yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, Patreon, all of them. You can either search for Caleb the Spy or the Album Anniversary Podcast. You should be able to find me. You can also email me, CalebTheSpypodcasts@gmail.com. I have a spreadsheet going of all the shows I'm doing in 2026, or I'm going to try and do in 2026. Feel free. I'll give you access to that. You can put your name on it. Again, no guarantees. I got a number of people who are signed up for stuff, but always looking for a variety of people, new people. So please hit me up. I'd love to have you on the show. Please subscribe, share the podcast. Those of us who are not famous are trying to build an audience one person at a time. So those things do help. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoy the show, you might also enjoy the other podcast I work on with my friend Scott. It's called I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. And it's just a podcast where we talk about youth group culture in the 90s and the 2000s. We hear people's stories, hear how those things were different. And then we hear where people are at now and kind of why that is. Whether they've left the faith entirely or they're still at the church that they were raised at. We just want to hear people's stories. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, which would have been even close. Half these guys probably weren't even born in 2000. These guys are all young, I think.
Dominic, maybe.
Yeah, he looks young. Anyway. All right.